So anyway, let's bring up this lovely girl, Lynn McDonald, to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Cherry. Come on up so we can... Well, come on up. You can say something as Dr. Cherry makes her way up here. We're really looking for, folks, this is going to be lots of fun here. You will be amazed how much you learn from this lovely lady.
Well, I was very honored to give a ride to Dr. Janet Cherry here. This morning, so we had about a 30-minute car ride, and I learned a lot about this lovely lady. She has a doctorate in training. There's probably a better way to say it, but she has trained a lot of people. But where her heart is helping to teach underprivileged children manners. And she teaches from the sandbox to the executive suite. And I think we can support this lady. By the way, she worked with Judy Gerda. Judy Gerda is near and dear to our heart. She does our flyers for us and used to be very, very involved in Talk Shop before she moved to Nashville. And we can support Dr. Cherry and her program by purchasing this book and giving it to a child.
Wow. What a testimonial. Dr. Cherry, welcome.
Thank you. No empathy, please, but I'll tell you, it takes 3 hours to dress with one arm. And the worst of it is the makeup, so I'm no artist in any way. But I want to tell you today how I got started with this book and how I'm here with this purpose. About 5 years ago, a friend of mine said, "Will you please do something for me? And by the way, I need to have you start doing it next week." Well, that's not long. She had a program in Orange Mound sponsored by a church where children would come during the day in the summer to be safe. And so she said, "I need somebody to talk to them about real stuff, not just play with glue and stuff like that." I said, "Okay, I'll do that." Well, I didn't have any, I had a lot of material, but nothing kind of ready, So we did 8 weeks. And we did communication, we did manners, we did all kinds of things. They were from 10 years old to through high school. And so that's kind of a range to prepare for. Well, they came and I'm thinking, I don't think they're listening, but maybe. And they wouldn't have your eye contact or all the things we know to do, So I said, I don't know. So we were coming up to the last week. But before that, I said, okay, next week we're going to talk about listening. And you really need to know about listening. It's the best skill we have going for us if we know how. So I said, now go home and this week find something that you really listen to and come back next week and tell us about it. Tell all of us about it. So next week came and this little kid stood up about to hear, maybe 10 years old, and he came in and he started waving his hand. I want to tell. I said, okay, what did you listen to? And what did you gather from it? He said, I listened for gunshots. And he said, I listened so that when I heard them, I would know where to run to hide. And I'll tell you, that story has never left my heart. And it started me thinking about what do we need to do here? Something needs to be done here. So I started thinking about it. And all this time, at that time, I was teaching at the university, teaching communication. And I was also listening to what the world is short on. And what do you think it is? Manners. And the syndicated press has picked it up. Stories are written about it. But it's true, and you don't have to go anywhere but out your front door to find the need to know how to treat yourself and others. And it's funny because people will say to me, what do you do? I said, well, I am a communication and etiquette coach. They bristle. Especially if I'm at a meal and they ask me and they'll say, I hope I've got the right spoon. Well, they've got the wrong idea. They might not have the right or wrong spoon, but they've got the wrong idea. Communication and manners is not just when you're at a meal. Manners are everywhere. They're in everything we do. And so that's my message. So I thought, well, what am I going to do about this? So I saw an ad in a magazine, one of those grocery store magazines, and it said, "Come tell your story on the radio." And I thought, I'm going to talk to these people. So I went over and talked to them. And before I left there, he was a better talker than I, because he had gotten me to sign a year's contract to be on the radio. And I said, I don't know anything about this. So I went home and I thought, what have I done? I'm into this now. I signed my name. So I thought, okay, we're going to make the best of this. I knew what I wanted. I wanted people from professions, all of them, from food to manners to everything, because we are in a place where manners follow us wherever we go. In the grocery store, how many times have you almost been run down by somebody not realizing they have a cart and you have one and there's an intersection? And how many times have you heard kids yelling their lungs out when mothers should use that as a teaching opportunity instead of just sitting there passively and letting the kid run wild or yell all the time and you want to say? Or how many times have you noticed that people don't know how to count to 15 when it says fast, lane, 15? So, manners are everywhere. They're everywhere. And communication and manners are joined at the hip. There's no separating the two. And to me, listening is the most important skill that we have if we learn it. Did you know we're not born knowing how to listen? We have to learn. We're born by God's grace knowing how to hear, but we don't know how to listen. And one day, many years ago, I saw an ad in a professional magazine about the International Listening Association, and their conference was coming up. And I said, I want to go to that. And my husband said, "God, what do you want to go to that for? You can listen." I said, "Well, you can't. Come with me." And so he thought that was even funnier. So I went, and I got very interested in the Listening Association, because most people have never been taught to listen. We have to go out of our way to find out how to listen. So I came home and I said, "Oh, you missed a great thing." Yeah. And so I decided he was my first person to try it on. And anytime I wanted something done in the house or something new, I would just catch him, and of course he was never listening. And so I said, then it would be delivered or whatever. He said, "When did we agree to this?" I said, "Oh, you must not have been listening. We talked about that." And so that's how I came into liking listening. And it's a skill that, honest to goodness, will bring you business. Because if you listen intently, you find something out about the person. And when you come back to see them the next time, you ask, "Oh, how did your child do in that tournament? Did they come out okay?" Well, most are surprised that you even remembered that you had a child, let alone that you knew he was in a tournament. But that's how I've learned to use listening as a tool for myself, as far as some things. So I wanted to teach these kids some things, and then that ended, but I didn't forget these people, because that little kid in his story about listening never left my heart. And I'll tell you very quickly another one. I used to bring little dollar store trinkets to reward them for what we did in the class. And this one little girl came up to me afterwards, and she was probably in high school, and she said, she won a little bracelet, and she said, "Would you take this home and keep it for me?" And I said, "Oh, but you want it, it's yours, wear it." "No," she said, "if I take it home, my parents will think I stole it, and I'll get beaten." And I thought, oh, that just... So I thought then, okay, I'm just about to end a little deal that I'm doing at the University of Teaching, because I was moving from the classroom where you grade 200 papers every week to the dining room where I now teach their etiquette dining classes, because Memphis employers think that our students don't have they have the technical skills, but they don't have the people skills to keep a job or to represent the firm. So we at the university offer professional development. And I do the etiquette training, and it's lots of fun. And they come to the class and they'll say, how long is this going to be? And I'll say, well, it's going to be about 2.5 hours. And I don't get much response. But what we do, I go through, we have 5 courses, and we tell them every utensil to use, how to use it, what to do, elbows off, don't, you know, there's a million things that they don't know. They just don't know. Now, they're seniors in college. Also, I teach them how to write a thank you note, a past art, let me tell you. There are kids that are seniors in college and have never written a thank you note, don't even know its importance, want to know if they can't just send out some kind of text message. I said, if that's the best you can do, it's better than nothing, but it won't work. And so now we do that as well at the dinner. We thank the people who invited them. So they're learning, but the best part is after it's all over and they frowned at me after 2.5 hours, and they come by on their way out and they'll say, thank you, I'm glad I came. I didn't know any of this. And so, but I will tell you our international students are far superior to our students when it comes to manners. And so we have a big gap to fill. Well, I'm thinking now, what are we going to do? So I did the radio show, met some wonderful people in all kinds of professions, and then it was over. And I had this stack of material and thoughts running around in my head, and I said, and I'd looked at over 70 or 80 manners books, and I didn't much like most of them. And I said, I want one that's fun. I want something fun to read and what to do. So I laid my list out. Here are the things I want to cover. And I started out with the sandbox, because in my opinion, what you can learn in the sandbox will carry you through the executive suite. And that's the name of the book. Manners on the Move, from the sandbox to the executive suite. And in it, the first chapter starts with the sandbox, and it tells you, gather your friends, share your tools, thank them for coming, tell them what good ideas they had, send them home with an invitation to come back. Well, isn't that what we do in business? We gather our team, we tell them what to do, we help them, we show them what we have and what they have, and they work together, and they do it. And that's teamwork. And that's in the executive suite. So the book covers what I want to do is find a group, maybe your church affiliation, find a group where I can give them a book and start them out, and there are things in here for every age, how to go to the zoo, how to ride your bike in safety and in manners, and all kinds of things in between. And so my idea is to give them the book and go in and teach them a class once a week and show them how, no matter where they live or what they're about, keep this with you. And as you grow, turn the pages to the chapter that fits you now. The one with school, the one with how to work with your friends and family, and finally, how to interview, and it says to wear socks. Most of the people now tell me that I speak with, do you know how many people come in for a job and they don't even have on socks? Well, that's what this is all about. And so now I'm looking for, and there's even a grown-up chapter in here about what to do when you don't. And so it breaks your heart, yes, but there's a way to get over it. And so you can do that. And then you send the book to this person who was so ugly. And you say, the next time, do it with manners. And I have a ton of fun doing what I do. Who was the lady that said you gotta like what you do? Somebody in here said, I love what I do. I forgot which one. Okay, well, you do. You have to love it. And what I do now is not work, it's fun, and it's helping people. So Judy and I told her, I said, now, if you be my partner in crime, you got to know that we're not going to get a penny back out of this, because our goal is to sell enough books, and we'll have that covered to buy another 100 printed to give away to these people that we are going to work with and let them have the fun of growing up with a book that they can use for the rest of their days if they don't lose it. So that's what I'm all about, and I love it. And I just can't tell you how many people there are in our city, and maybe you know, who need this kind of help. It is almost embarrassing to say I live in a city that is in such need, but it is true. It is true. And they don't know they need it. You know, Emily Post, her first manners book was written in 1922. And the best thing she said in it, a lot of good stuff, but the best thing she said was her definition of manners. And it's just one word. You know what it is? Respect. Respect. But you gotta have it for yourself before you can give it away to someone else. So that's what this is all about. Now, do I have time to do my little quiz with the people?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be fun. Oh, it's usually fun. It is. And, oh, good, good. Yes, this arm is a hazard. And so were the covers I tripped in to get it. So, and if you'll let me have one of them. Oh, thank you. Did you get one? Here, you get one. Thank you. All right, now here's what we're gonna do. This is a little follow-up fun. I was at a group the other day. It's called the Curmudgeons. And these gentlemen were lawyers and doctors and other professionals, retired, and they thought they knew quite a lot, but they didn't get things right. Well, that was interesting to me to say, maybe you don't know everything. So, here, let's answer these. Number one, the magic words we grow up with childhood are cookies and cream or please and thank you. Yes, I put the easy one on the top, but that's really true. And nowadays, when I talk to people that have young people, they don't know these words. They pick cookies and cream. Can you believe it? They do.
Hey, Dr. Terry, I know when we have our grandchildren over at our house, over their house, we're babysitting for Lynn and I, they always say something, Grandpa, will you get me the cookies? And I said, what's the magic word?
Yes.
So they use that please. And
Yes.
after I serve, I said, what magic word are you supposed to use now? And they'll say thank you. So
Yes.
I like your definition of magic word because that's how I do it for
And
me.
it's been around for ages, even older than I am, and that's pretty old. But I grew up with that, and all of you did too, I'm sure. But that's gone now. It's just gone. Where is the appropriate place for the name tag? Right or left?
Right.
Right is right. That's good. That's good. A lot of people still will say, no, it's the left. And I have to explain to them why it's the right. When visiting an executive's office for a job interview, you should be seated. A. When invited to be seated. And some people come down and just flop. You know, they just come in and flop. And they don't wait to be seated. They don't know where to be seated. They just flop. I'm telling you, interviewing is atrocious nowadays. It is atrocious. Would anybody agree with me that's had to do it? Yeah, they don't come looking right or bring right or whatever.
They bring their parents.
I'm telling you.
I'm not kidding.
No, and they want to know, the first thing they want to know is,
What's in it for me?
well, they want to know, when do I get days off paid? That's the first thing they want to know. It's very interesting, I think, but that's what they want to know. Okay, what communication skill is most likely to prevent the most errors? Listening, absolutely. Which seat is designated at the place of honor at a formal dinner?
Right side.
It's A, the seat to the right side of the host or hostess. And forks are on which side of the dinner plate? Left, good. People are beginning to get this one if you don't put the one fork out. Now, if you start putting out two or three, they're going to say something to you. What is the purpose of the 2 utensils when placed at the top of the plate?
Dessert.
Dessert, yes. And you know, the handles point to the side when they should be brought down on the side of the plate.
Yep.
So the handles, the spoon, of course, with the handle to the right, because when your place is cleared by the server, then you bring the utensils down and you're ready to use whichever one is needed for the dessert. All right? If your dinner partner asks for the pepper, you should B, pass both. And even though they don't want both, the next person who wants something, they're separated and it's a mess. So you serve them together, they're a pair, they like each other, and they go together. Is it correct to cut your rolls rather than breaking them?
No.
B.
A.
No, I mean,
No.
A.
It is A. You never cut bread, you always break it. But you break it, sometimes, you know, some rolls come and they help you. They're sort of just sectioned off into bite sizes and you pull them apart. But even if they're not, you just pull enough apart for one bite. And you don't butter your roll as if you were painting a wall. I've seen people take the butter spreader and go, you know, and it's not that. You just simply spread enough for one bite, that's it.
Can I get a clarification on this? Sometimes you see those rolls that are in, you know, the big bread basket,
Right,
and you watch people, but in order to handle it, you've
Yeah.
got to put your hand
yeah,
on the whole, say, loaf
yes.
before it. Is there a particular way to do that? Because sometimes you wonder, well, yeah, I'm watching how they're handling it, and then.
It depends on the formality of the group. If it's a very casual group, you could probably break it gently with just one little touch and you're okay. If it's a big one, you could use your fork to hold it steady and break it with the piece you're gonna keep.
Yes.
And you can do it that way. And restaurants should help you by not putting those gargantuan buns in a basket, you know, but they don't. They don't do that.
I asked that question for all of you just so you could have.
Thank you
Some
so
help.
much. You're so thoughtful.
I'm trying to help everybody.
Always thinking ahead.
Okay. After stirring your iced beverage, you should,
B.
P, you should remove it because you do not want to poke your eye out when you drink, and besides, it's just not the way to do it. You also don't want to make a lot of noise when you stir, so you stick the spoon down in the beverage, not to touch anything but the inside, not the walls of the glass. And so you just move your spoon back and forth. Now, what about not squirting people in the eye with your lemon? What do you do with that?
Cover it with your
Cover it.
hand.
Yes, you do. And if people don't, you are likely to get squirted. Yeah? All right. Should you need to leave the table during dinner, place your napkin.
A.
B. B.
Well, there's no C, and I've heard A and B, but B is correct. You leave it in the seat of your chair. That says to the server, they'll be back.
Back.
Yeah. Now, at the end of dinner, what are you going to do with it?
Put it across your plate.
No, not across the plate.
See, that's what she said, what not to do, so I'm just trying to.
Folded loosely, you put it to the left of the plate, to the left of the plate. You don't wad it up and stick it in the middle. You don't do that. If your napkin falls to the floor,
B.
you do ask for a new one, and you do pick it up if it's accessible, but you don't use it. And you be sure that if you can't reach it well, that you kind of try to put it so that no one will stumble over it, such as the server. That would be a bigger miss. Okay? And where do you place your cell phone on the table?
B.
I want to hear everybody say that. Thank you. Cell phone is my, I love them, they help me, but they also are the biggest nuisance the world has ever come out with. And people abuse them all the time. I had as one of my guests a server from a very popular restaurant here in the city, and he worked with his team before he came on the show to tell me what they disliked about people coming to their restaurant. And it all had to do with cell phones, and they're just a nuisance at times. And I'm thinking that in the next few years, we're gonna see corns, calluses, and numbness in hands because of holding these things like they won't be put down. But he gave me a story that's kind of funny, and he said this group came in, and of course they all sat down, and what did they do? Get their cell phones out. And then he said he came to take their order, and they said, come back. And he came back, and he said, come back. And he came back. He said, come back. He came back. They're all still on their phone. And then he came back, and the man that had been on the phone all this time said, well, where have you been? And so he said, I tell you, they're awful. We have trouble with them. And the last one, when you need to attract the attention of a server, you just kind of try to get their eye attention. You don't wave your napkin like some people do. And I wish I could tell you about 6 different things to do with napkins, but she tells me that we're almost out of time. And I want to say to you that please take the heed of Emily Post and try to use respect and teach it. Be the role models that we're missing out there for our young ones. Thank you.
I'm going to give her a little bit of credit. I don't know if you folks have stumbled out there, but